All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So excited to welcome you to our second edition of What's New, What's Next. Today we have Carole Zangari joining us, the creator of PrAACtical AAC, a prolific blog with resources and information, and she has been an absolute leader in the industry. So let me bring Carole on. Hello, welcome, Carole Zangari.
Hey, Mei-Ling, how are you? Good to see you.
So good to see you too. I have to tell you that the garbage truck has just shown up. So,
Of course you did. Of course
of
you
course.
did.
And then UPS will probably drop something off in a second
Yes,
too.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm just waiting for the lawn people to, be around the neighborhood.
That's usually okay. So if I mute myself and I forget and I just start talking, just let me know
I
because
will.
it's
I will.
they
I will.
literally just showed up. Okay, so welcome. So first of all, where are you coming from? Where are you calling in from?
Yeah, I'm talking to you from South Florida, beautiful South Florida. It's absolutely gorgeous here. We've got some unseasonably cool weather in the last couple of days, and for those of us in warmer climates, we are so grateful for those days where it's not super steamy and hot. So, hello from
So
South Florida.
what is the weather? When you say warmer, are you up to the 80s,
Um,
90s?
yeah, so I think today it's going to go up to about like 83 or so, which a little bit on the cool side for us this time of year. So that's good.
Yeah, we got up to I think 92 yesterday in Arizona.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah.
living it. I
But at
know,
least it's
sorry.
dry there. At least it's
Yes,
dry there.
that is true. Yeah, we don't have that humidity, right, that you guys have.
Yep,
Oh,
yep, yep.
all right.
80% humidity is nothing for us. So
Nice. Okay, well, I would love to start out with what's new. And it's a pretty broad question, especially when we're talking about you specifically, because I feel like, you are on the cutting edge of things being in the university. So if you could give it just a little bit of background of where you're at, what you do, and what is new.
sure. Well, just in terms of background, for those of you guys who don't know, my full-time job is really as a university professor at Nova Southeastern University, where I've been on speech language faculty for about 26 years, and I was at Purdue before that. So PrAACtical AAC, I do on, early in the morning or on weekends and that kind of stuff. But in terms of what's new, I mean, I think, the changes that we've all experienced with the COVID situation have just really given us all pause and an opportunity to really kind of think about where we are and where we're headed. And to me, one of the things that really is kind of new is that people are really realizing that all of us, we're one illness away from being AAC users, right? AAC is not just this thing we sort of kind of want to know about for a segment of a clinical population or that we may have on our clinical caseloads or special education kids that we may serve in school. But, it could be any of us. We are all one illness away from, needing intubation, right? Where, oral communication becomes impossible. So I think that brings a different sense of urgency to our understanding of AAC and the tools, the technologies, and all of that.
So I remember to unmute. Interesting you brought that up. So I think what's new in what you're talking about is putting together that AAC is for everyone. And we did work on the PDF internally. I don't know if you got to see it, but it was a partner-assisted communication PDF that you can print out, and it can be in the medical setting. And a number of our teammates at Cognition worked on it, in addition to some other people that we reached out in the field. And when I put that on my Facebook, it was really interesting. People read it and saw these, expressive phrases that we had on there. And, Carole, it just brings to mind your own mortality, right? And how important it is to be able to communicate. And that brings us back to what you and I have been doing for so many years, and, what AAC people have been working on for so many years. So I don't know, is that new, or is it just new
No,
to?
I think so. And I think the other thing it really shines a spotlight on is just how vulnerable the population of people with complex communication needs really is relative to the healthcare system, and how poorly prepared we are for really, providing them with a level of service that they're entitled to by law, and that we certainly want them to have. I think it's really been eye-opening for us. And, we're all kind of like dealing with this sort of like crisis mode right now, but I think, as things settle down, there will be a lot of interest in trying to fill some of these gaps that have opened up, or that have been there, but we just, we're really, really recognizing them in a different way right now.
Absolutely. For anybody who's watching this live, or if they're watching this later, would love for you to answer the question, have you seen this new space in AAC where people are now seeing that this is something that we need to think about when we're intubated to be able to communicate? I think that that's something that, it's kind of this fear, Carole. We talk about when you go to the hospital, you're not going to be able to communicate. How do you get in touch with your family? We see people texting. Have you seen that, where people have been able to send texts, right?
Right.
So just wondering, have you guys had those conversations? If I go in, how will I communicate with my family? So let us know. Go ahead, Carole, you're going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, things like even having a communication passport, or even having materials so that you can explain this to somebody with a developmental disability. I was really impressed by how fast the field responded in creating those kinds of materials, and their generosity in sharing them. I curated a number of those and put together, just a sharing sheet that linked to a bunch of those. I think I did that on a Saturday, and by Sunday evening it had, like, I don't know, 20,000 hits on it or something. So you could just see just how desperate people are for that sort of information that they can use with folks who maybe need a little extra help in processing what's really happening to them, and what it's like to wear a mask, and why you can't see your friends, and all of that.
I love that. Is that something that you can share in the chat later after this, Carole?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That
would be great. And yeah, I'll also put the link. Beautiful. I'll put the link to our updated PDF also.
Yeah, and it links to all free stuff that creators have posted, whether they're videos or downloads or social stories, that sort of thing.
Beautiful.
People have been great.
That brings me to the question, Carole. How do you come up with the resources that you create? Because honestly, when you put something out, it just gets shared like wildfire because it is such an amazing resource.
Well, because I teach AAC classes, and I have done so for a long time, and I do it online, meaning my students are all around the country. I have a lot of people sending me stuff and say, "Oh, did you see this? Did you see this? Or we made this," and that kind of thing. So a lot of it is sort of nominated, shared with me from the field. I have something on the blog every Tuesday called an AAC Link Up, where people who have things they want to share, they can just put that user submitted content in there. So I get some stuff from there. But a lot of it, is just because I'm very in tune with AAC creators and scholars, and kind of keeping my eye close out for some of the literature that's coming out and those things.
That's amazing. I got to say this to you before we got on live, and I just want to say it again. I see you like Oz behind the curtain, but like the more techie Oz. So this is how I see you. Like, you're in the CNN room and you have all your screens up, and this information is coming in, and you're like, okay, we're gonna post this out. I'm gonna put this into an amazing top tips resource. Is that how it happens?
I would say a lot of it, there's not as much planning as there used to be. When I first started PrAACtical AAC, of course, I did that with my dear colleague and friend, Robin Parker, who has since passed away. And so when she, I had somebody to collaborate with, so we would do more of that planning. But PrAACtical AAC really is, pretty much just me. So, there's nobody to plan with. So, I do as much as I can to kind of lay things out in advance, but if I'm being really honest with you, it's just really as time allows.
That's amazing. And I'm sure that people that are watching are also amazed. We have Casey Barron joining us. I don't know if you can see that in the chat, and she says hello.
Hi, Casey. Hey, Lucas.
Oh, yeah, and Lucas too. I'm sorry. I totally missed him. But this is actually a great example of the AAC community is this family. Everyone knows everyone. It's beautiful. Just yesterday, I was so honored to be involved in the Chico State SLP graduation for the class of 2020. Did you hear about that, Carol?
No.
Brandy Wentland of We Speak AAC, she and Krista Howard put it together, and it was absolutely incredible. She had people like Carolyn Musselwhite and Richard Ellenson and Lauren Enders, Mo Booty, I mean, you name it. And each of us got to read each person who was graduating and just like a little bit of their info and just come together and be there for them.
Aww.
Yes, because where they're located, they also had the Paradise fires. I don't know if you know about that in California. They've just been through so much, and Brandy did such an amazing job of pulling together leaders in the AAC community, but also in the SLP community, to come together and help them to have a special graduation. It's just who we are, and that brings us to, we're a very tight family. Let me get you to the next question, which is, what's next? What do you see as the future of AAC?
Well, I mean, I think there's just so many ways to answer that, but one thing that really sort of stands out to me is, I think there's a lot of energy around flattening this AAC service provision sort of landscape. So for a long time, families have looked primarily to the professionals, primarily to SLPs for leadership in this area. And while we would continue to have a role, and that role is changing, with AAC specialization on the horizon from ASHA for speech language pathologists. I think there's also a lot of energy around the fact that that a lot of people can do pieces of AAC very, very well. And I think, I think it's a really positive development to have more people involved in taking ownership of their, piece of the AAC pie. And being in academia, it's unfortunately an area that reinforces silos, right? And there's not a lot of reinforcement for role release, except if it's, something on your professional education and that sort of thing. But for the most part, if you look at how we act, not what we say, there's a lot of, compartmentalization. And so I'm really happy to be, looking outside of that silo to what's happening in the real world. And I think it's very encouraging that families are taking strong ownership of this and learning more about what they need to, not just for their own kid, but the underpinnings of AAC and the whys of it. And other professionals and paraprofessionals are too. And I think, if we can continue to fuel that movement, the winners are going to be those thousands and probably millions of people with AAC needs around the world, whose needs are just unmet, or they're not met in a sufficient, with sufficient robustness. So I'm pretty happy about that. I'm happy to see, the field moving in that direction. And it's a little bit of a push-pull because, like I said, we have, for the first time in the U.S., AAC specialization on the horizon, right? So there's kind of like this push-pull. I think, there'll be a role for different people to play. But overall, I'm very happy to see, more people getting involved in really understanding the underpinnings of AAC.
Absolutely. And I think what you're pointing to is through the telepractice or teletherapy that's come up because we had to do it. A lot of parents and caregivers are really seeing what speech therapists have been doing and assistive technologists have been doing to assist their child, their loved one, to use this communication tool. And that points to the coaching model that we've been trying to bring out all these years. Yes,
and I've seen that go both ways. I've seen parents who are horribly disappointed in the quality of services that kids are getting, and they're saying to themselves, I can't believe this is all that's been happening. And I'm glad I know that now because I can, steer this ship in a different direction or steer it with different level of energy. And then those families who've said, I can't believe how much progress we're making now that I am much more involved in the online service delivery and seeing what they're working on. And, there aren't there aren't many people using a true coaching model, but I think most practitioners are at least doing family education through remote, vehicles. And those who are doing a really, robust coaching model are having really nice outcomes. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and at Cognition with the Speak Pros app, we've seen more parents downloading and contacting us and having questions, where they're just going right to, how can I do this? How can I use this? And that's fascinating.
Yep. I think as SLPs, we're now more mindful of our power as gatekeepers, and I've always been one to encourage people to keep that gate open, right? We don't need a lock on it. Like, we know a lot, but other people know a lot too. And let's figure this out as a team.
Excellent. Well, Carole, it has been an absolute honor having you here with me this morning or afternoon for you. And I'm sure that the people that are watching this are just so excited to get some real FaceTime with you, because I feel like we kind of know you through your prolific blog and what you share, but to see you and interact with you is really amazing. So thank you for all that you're doing. I know that I say this for a lot of, the people that have been following you for years and the people that benefit from your work. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for this wonderful opportunity. It's so great to be with you.
All right. Wonderful. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.